Good afternoon. I'm Omar G. Jarvis, pastor of the Berea Seventh-day Adventist Church, and we are privileged once again to host Memory Sunday. I'm so glad that you have chosen to join us, whether again this year or maybe for the first time. I hope that you will take a minute, invite a friend, whether you send them a text, an email, or give them a quick phone call, because today promises to be a life-changing experience. Over the past several years, we have witnessed individuals whose lives have been changed, not because we found a cure, but because we found hope. We have found camaraderie, and we have found strength to journey for another day. I pray that you too will experience the blessing that Memory Sunday will bring to your home, your experience, and to your loved ones. So why don't you sit back, relax, and allow for your life to experience the light of hope and of love. Thank you for joining us today. I invite you to bow your heads with me for prayer. Gracious God of hope, our God of comfort, our present help in a time of trouble, you are our balm in Gilead. And so, Lord, as we participate in this Memory Sunday program, we invite your Holy Spirit to fill our hearts with peace and with hope. I pray today that not only will we receive vital information, but that our hearts would be lifted with the promise of your gracious mercy. So may you bless us throughout this program, and may we find that peace that passes all understanding. In the name of Jesus we pray, amen.
Good afternoon, everyone. We, the jet setters of the Berea Seventh-day Adventist Church, are so glad you are here with us today. As you know, June is Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month. The jet setters welcome you to our 4th annual Memory Sunday event. The jet setters are the seniors of Berea who are 50 years old and above. We have been organized in Berea since 1989, and we ask, and now we seek to have life-changing information and give it to anyone who will listen. As I mentioned, this is the 4th year of the coalition now known as Memory Sunday New England. Our first year, 2018, dealt with the brain and how it is affected by Alzheimer's, which is a type of dementia. In 2019, we were encouraged to make memories, include the patient in family activities, and most of all, show love, because love remembers. 2020 was a challenging year due to COVID-19, but the caregivers were highlighted and supported in their daily endeavors to give assistance. Today, we will be dealing with memory loss and the signs of change. We are happy to have partnered with the Mayor's Office of the City of Boston, various hospitals and churches in the area, the Balm of Gilead from Richmond, Virginia, and Memory Sunday New England to bring to the communities of color hope, help, and education about this devastating disease called dementia and Alzheimer's. Our Black and Brown communities are hit twice as hard as other communities when it comes to this issue. You will be informed on how to recognize the warning signs and how to respond to our loved ones who are affected. The experts and caregivers on the panels will give you greater insight into this journey. You will hear about resources and the many ways you can participate in crucial ongoing research. You will not be disappointed. During the discussions, you will be on mute, but you are encouraged to place your comments and questions in the chat, and they will be responded to during the question and answer session. Thank you so much for your presence. Feel free to call or send the link to your friends and relatives. Good news should be shared. We have two panels, and it is my pleasure to welcome again to our program the moderator, who will introduce the panels to you after you have watched the videos. Our moderator is no stranger to us, and he is a writer, poet, community organizer, board chairman, researcher, television host, just to name a few. He is the man of all seasons and the man of the hour. It is my pleasure to some to introduce and others to present the one and only charismatic Michael Kincaid. When he comes on, give him some love. Thank you and enjoy the program.
Thank you for everyone for attending this important virtual event for Memory Sunday. I am Elizabeth Chen, and I have the privilege of serving as the Secretary of the Commonwealth's Executive Office of Elder Affairs. At Elder Affairs, our mission is to ensure that older adults have opportunities to thrive in the communities of their choice. We fund and oversee programs and services to support the 1.6 million older adults in the Commonwealth. We rely on our partners in the Aging Services Network, including the Area Agencies on Aging, the Aging Services Access Points, and the 350 local councils on aging. I also serve as the chair of the Commonwealth's Alzheimer's Disease and Related Dementias Advisory Council. The council is composed of a diverse panel of caregivers, clinicians, advocates for individuals living with dementia and their caregivers, healthcare providers, legislators, public health professionals, and researchers. I am pleased to report that in April, the Council issued the Massachusetts State Plan on Alzheimer's Disease and Related Dementias. This plan includes recommendations and implementation plans approved by the Advisory Council for each of 7 focus areas. First, caregiver support and public awareness, diagnosis and services navigation, equitable access and care, physical infrastructure, public health infrastructure, quality of care, and research. Today, there are approximately 130,000 people in Massachusetts living with dementia who are supported by over 340,000 family caregivers. We know that the number of people with an official diagnosis underrepresents people who are beginning to live with and see signs of Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. I encourage you to speak with your healthcare professionals if you start to notice signs, especially as we all come out of an incredibly difficult year of much loneliness and isolation. Thank you again for inviting me to be part of this event today. I hope you find it informational and helpful, and I look forward to being with you all in person soon.
Hi, I'm Kim Janey, Mayor of Boston. Welcome to Memory Sunday, and thank you to the National Brain Health Center for African Americans for organizing this event to raise awareness and support for Alzheimer's disease. The risk of developing Alzheimer's is 2 to 3 times higher for African Americans than the general population. We are also generally diagnosed at later stages of Alzheimer's disease. The Black church has always been a driver of social justice movements throughout the United States. With Memory Sunday, the Black church can turn its influence toward the issue of Alzheimer's in our community. Thank you to our churches, to our community leaders, and to the National Brain Health Center for African Americans for bringing attention to this very, very important issue. I'm so grateful for all you do. May God bless you and keep you always.
Hello everybody, welcome to Memory Sunday. It is such a privilege for me to be a part of your program today. For folks who don't know me, my name is Emily Shea. I'm the Commissioner for the Age Strong Commission at City Hall, and I've been a part of your program for the last 3 years. I look forward to it every year. It's a day I have circled on my calendar, second Sunday in June, because I know that we're going to be sharing information, we're going to be celebrating, and we're going to be learning. And that is such a blessing and such a wonderful thing. Supporting our communities, our caregiver, and our neighbors is more important now than ever. And so is awareness around dementia and Alzheimer's disease. We know that Alzheimer's disease and dementia impact communities of color disproportionately. And so I want to thank you for your work you're doing here today. You're learning about resources, you're learning about supports for caregivers, and you can then pass that on to others so that we continue the movement with people understanding how they can get supports and assistance out there in the community. The mayor mentioned some of the work we've been doing to support communities and our commitment to tackling dementia at City Hall. And we have lots of partners that are running fantastic programs as well, whether it's Boston Senior Home Care and their Family Caregiver Program, or the Alzheimer's Association on all the work that they're doing to support caregivers and their helpline that they have, their 24-hour helpline. But there's so many resources out there, it can be hard to navigate and figure out which ones to access. So I want to let you know we have someone in our department, her name is Amy. She can help you navigate those resources. She can help you connect to the things that are going to help you in your situation. So please give us a call at the Age Strong Commission. All you have to do is call 311. If you're anywhere in Boston, you can call 311, get connected to us at the Age Strong Commission, and we can help you navigate what resources are out there and find the ones that are the best fit for you. So thank you all. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your program, and thanks for letting me be a part of it today. Take care.
Good day. My name is Mike Kincaid. I'm from the Center for Alzheimer's Research and Treatment, which is a department of the Massachusetts Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. And this is part of Memory Sunday New England 2021. We're having an interview with two caregivers because we'd like to have a conversation about warning signs. The theme for this year is Seasons of Change, noticing the changes of people who are living with Alzheimer's. So I've got two amazing guests that are hanging out with me today. I've got Cynthia and I've got Rosie. Ladies, I'll let you introduce yourself. Cynthia, if you could go first.
Hello, my name is Cynthia Jacobs-Chobert, and I'm a long-distance caregiver.
There you go, long-distance caregiver. Rosie.
My name is Rosie Silka White, and I'm a past caregiver.
Okay, and the similarities is you both of your moms are the ones that had Alzheimer's disease.
Correct, that's correct.
All right, so Rosie, I'm gonna go to, now your mom has since passed on.
Yes.
And Cynthia, you already said you're a long-distance caregiver.
Yes.
So Rosie, I'm gonna go to you. If you could try to remember the first time, what was the first warning sign now that you look back that you didn't notice then? Or as I like to say, what's the first time mom did something that made you stop and go, that's strange, and you just kept on going? No big deal.
When she mixed up her daily medication,
Okay.
by taking the 12 o'clock pill instead of the morning pill. And so I kept calm because I was at work. There was nothing I could do about it then. And when I came home, I went to her home. She was still living by herself. And I just rearranged the pills for her to have. The next day, I called her primary care and I explained what happened. And she said, don't panic. The ones she took are fine. She just took them in the reverse order. And I said, what should I do about that, doctor? And she said, just continue. You put them out for her on the weekends and you just remind her to look for morning, Sunday noon, and Sunday evening.
So it sounds like the first warning sign for you was a mix-up in routine, regular routine. Again, like I said, thank God that it wasn't serious. And I love your reaction, which was, I'm at work, it's not anything dangerous, it's all good. You know, and you were smart enough to call but I find it interesting that her physician didn't ask you what might have caused it, because this is early before anybody knew anything was wrong. Cynthia, what about you? What's the first time that you can think of where mom did something that caused you to hesitate?
I'm going to go back a few years. I was at work when I received a phone call, and it was my dad stating that he didn't know where my mother was.
Oh, okay.
We're like, okay, what do you mean? He says, well, she left to go to a church function, but she hasn't come back home yet, and I don't know where she is. So we all became confused because I'm here in Boston, my dad is in South Carolina, and so as a family, we just kind of brainstormed where could she be. We started calling friends, couldn't find her. We knew that she was extremely tired because they had come from a trip. And my father said to my mom, get some rest. And so her thing was, well, I want to go on this church function. I want to go. So she stayed up all night. She cooked for the function. And my father's like, you need to go to bed. And she became very obsessed with cooking and going to this church function. She went off to church that morning to go to the function. When it was time for them to come back, she did not return. So my father called the church and they said, well, she never came to the function.
She never made it?
She never made it to the function.
With all that food?
With all the food.
Okay.
So we didn't know where she was. And so they said, well, she's going to show up. She's going to show up because the car's not here at the church. And like, okay, well, okay. So, you know, it was like, everybody stay where you are. We're just, you know, she'll be home later on. Later on, we came the next day and she still did not return home. We didn't know where she was. So my father, when he was out on the roads thinking maybe she went off on the side of the road, knew she was tired. So it's like, okay, you know, so he went out looking. My brother went out looking. And my sister was like, I'm on my way. She lives in Huntsville. I'm on my way. She wanted to look also. Of course, I had to fly in. Anyway, as I returned, I think it was like the Tuesday, the car pulls up and my mom pulls up in the car. And we're all, where have you been? What is going on? And she says, well, no one was at the church, so I just started driving. And I tried to find the place, but I couldn't find the place. But God, she ended up going to someone's house that she knew from New York that had moved down south. She realized enough that I know somebody that lives in this house. She went to the house and the lady said, for I think about 2 days, 1.5, 2 days, she slept. She just.
Because she was exhausted.
She was exhausted, so she slept. But she didn't understand why we were all excited looking for her.
Wait, okay, Rosie, hold on. There's a big difference. Rosie, help me out here. There's a big difference between mom taking the wrong pill and mom disappearing for 2 days.
For 2 days.
Remember, I started off and said, what was the first that was unusual?
Yeah.
I would think, and it's ironic because statistically, 7 out of 10 people with Alzheimer's are going to get lost.
Yes.
But I'm a firm believer the other 3 out of 10 get lost too, but they find their way home.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I've got to ask this question. Did you contact the local authorities?
We did. Okay. But, you know, again, where do you look?
Where do you look?
Mm-hmm. And just getting her to understand that mom when you did that, you really concerned a lot. You concerned us. We were really concerned. Based on what my father said on, as he was on his deathbed, his thing was, I really tried to hang in there. I know your mom is going to basically need support. And so I'm assuming, saw these signs.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes. And he knew that she would do things like, go away and, but try not to worry us about, what was going on with my mom.
So I'm curious, and I'm going to toss this out to either one of you. Another one of the warning signs is struggling with words, trying to find the right, not even necessarily the right word, but a word to describe something. Did you ever see that? And either
constantly, consistently.
Give me an example.
She would be in the midst of having a conversation. Doesn't matter what the conversation was, but then she was saying, well, what I said, what was I saying? What am I going to say here? And then she'll say, well, just let me go and I'll come back. I'll come back to it.
It'll get back
but
to
just, yes, but just always struggling to find a word, struggling with which child she's talking to, which grandchild. And it's only 3 of us, so it's not like we have a huge family.
I used to jokingly say my mom would start calling us all, and then you know who you are.
Yes. Or sweetheart, which one of you? What's your name? And she doesn't have very many grandchildren either. So it's like, okay, so is this one, is Monty your child, or is Dion your? And just trying to struggle with putting things together, making those connections.
Now, since I got to jump over here to Rosie, because Rosie's finishing your sentence. And I love that because it shows that there's some commonality. Did you have a similar example where mom wasn't able to remember?
Not in the beginning.
Okay.
Later on, she'll be talking to someone. She says, "Who are you again?" They'll say, or she would say, "But Rosie, so and so hasn't called me in days, and that's not like her." And because she was accustomed to it. And so my cousin would call. She says, "Cynthia, where have you been? You haven't called me." She said, "Yes, mommy." She says, "Well, that daughter of mine, she hides your number and I can't find it. So could you wait, let me write it down again?"
Now this is interesting. And I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, finish. Now, you've just given 2 other warning signs. Forgetting the faces and names of familiar people and getting times and dates lost. And you that was perfect with, there's only 3 of us, but you're still struggling.
Pick your poison. Which one of us?
You know who you are.
Yes.
But that is a perfect example, what you just described of, she hasn't called me in days. When your cousin knew she had. Which leads me to, and I got to ask Rosie this, which leads me to ask, how did you explain this to other family members?
You mean what she was going on with?
Yeah.
I just, like I said, I told them her problem and the fact that she's going to be living with me now because she is not able to live on her own. And so the similar things will happen. She remembered her brother's phone number, would call him, her sister's number, and would call her.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And she'd have a good conversation. There's calls. They say, "Susie, how are you doing?" Da, 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 da. "Yeah, I'm here." She goes, "I'm right here at my daughter. I'm having a good time, and I'm helping her cook. I'm cutting up the vegetables. I'm cutting up this."
Now, I'm gonna question you on that one because I've known people with Alzheimer's who will have a great conversation of what I would say, remember when. Ask them what they had for breakfast, they couldn't remember. But ask them about the first boyfriend or girlfriend in high school,
And they remember.
And they'll tell you the home phone number.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when you were saying mom was having these conversations, what were the conversations about? Do you remember? Were they current or were they?
You mean to a brother and
Yeah.
sister? They were current.
Really?
Yeah. Most of them were current because when whatever question they asked her, she would say, yeah, I'm here by my daughter. And
so they were cued questions.
mm-hmm.
Who's here with you?
Right.
Yeah. Now, because again, this is a warning sign. One of the warning signs is short-term memory loss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She started off with that.
Give me an example. And I know you already talked about the medication.
Yeah, but yeah. She would, let me see a good one.
Because there's so many.
So many of them. One night, I was giving her a medication, and she says, "What are you giving me?" I said, "Mom, this is your night meds to go to sleep." She says, "My doctor didn't tell me to take that, and I worked at the hospital, so I know. I don't have to take them." I said, "But Mom, we take this every day." And she just had a fit. I finally called my son and my husband. And so Jeffrey said, "Grandma, what's Mommy doing to you?" She said, "I don't know, child. She wants to give me stuff that I'm not supposed to take." And so we talked to her, talked her into it, calm her down. And he said, "Come on, let me help you with these. These are for your good. The doctor did say that you should take these tonight." She drank the pills. Just like that. And then the book I was telling you, 36-hour day, it told you that this would happen. And because I'm a female, she's a female, she would reject me.
You're the bad guy.
Yes.
Or in this case, the bad gal.
Yeah, she would reject me, but she will talk to my son and my husband.
All right, Rosie, I gotta ask you a question. What was the relationship you and your mom had before she had dementia?
We had a great relationship.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So,
and we went shopping together. She was my little handbag.
And here's what I'm going with. What's amazing about this conversation is we're talking about the warning signs in real time. Because another one of the warning signs is changing behavior and attitude. She went from being your best friend to telling everybody
the enemy.
You were trying to give her drugs.
Drugs that the doctor did say she should have. And I worked in the hospital, so I know I don't have to take that.
Oh, yeah. Cynthia, can you give an example of a first time you noticed a short-term memory thing?
My mom and my brother have a very close relationship. Okay. My mom, if my brother said he's coming to the house, my mother would get up and fix a meal for him in a heartbeat. But right now, my mom and my brother are struggling. For example, I'll use something that happened today. My brother has, been making appointments for my mom because she needs to have her eyes examined. My brother made an appointment for my mom to have the vaccination. He was able to take my mom to the COVID, to the vaccination, get her vaccination, but that was a struggle because she kept asking him, what are we supposed to be doing? Where are we supposed to be going? Now we tried to prep my mom ahead of time that, Mom, these are the appointments for the week and this is what's going to happen. She will call in the morning and say, I don't feel good. I don't feel good, so I'm not going to go. I'm really tired. And so we're like, Mom, we've been talking about this. We've been talking about this all week, that you need to get this vaccination. This morning, we said, Mom, we've told you, you have to get your glasses. You're telling everybody that your lens is popping out. And so we need to replace those. Well, where am I supposed to be going again? It's like and my brother, he's like, Ma, I told you that 5 times already. I'm driving 45 minutes to come get you. We're supposed to be up. Before I went to the doctor, and then the doctor said, Ma, this is.
So here's the question I'm going to ask you, Tim. And I want you to give this some thought. In your case, Cynthia, you're living with this. And I don't mean you're living with mom, you're living with the disease.
Yes.
Rosie, you have firsthand experience with your mom. If there's one thing you would tell somebody who's going through this right now, a caregiver, what would be that one thing that would you tell them? And while Rosie's thinking, Cynthia, what's the one thing you would share with a caregiver who's going through this right now?
Challenging. It's challenging. But you said one thing, but there's hope. It's very challenging. As an adult to watch your parent go through this and try to be of support to them. It's challenging.
It's hard.
It's very hard. But you see that glimmer. Every now and then that door opens and you see the glimmer. You see that hope that, okay, you're not in this alone. You have a group of supporters. You have a group of people who can help you. They've been through this. They've been through this and they survived it. And you will survive, and your parent, or guardian will survive this.
One thing, Rosie.
First thing I would say, pray for patience. It takes extra patience to go through this. And especially if you didn't know that your parent or whoever it is gonna develop this kind of attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And most times it just comes on you unawares. And you have to say, give me strength and exercise the faith and patience to know how to deal with it. You can't yell because it's not they don't understand anybody.
Never win that one.
No, you won't. And, it takes a certain kind of person to be a caregiver. It's not everyone who's cut out to be that.
Yes.
Some people, they just take it on. Others, they have to grow into it because every patient is not the same.
Yep.
And you're going to have a different response from one patient to another. So you have to develop that attitude of not losing your cool, stay calm, and know that everything is going to work out.
All right. Well, I want to thank you too for hanging out with me. And here's my final thoughts to you. And you've already experienced mom passing. No matter how much this disease changes them, you were and you will always be her baby girl.
Yeah.
And she always will love you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Because no matter what distills in the head, it doesn't touch the
Doesn't
heart.
still the heart.
Yeah.
So remember that.
Yes. And I'm a witness to that.
There you go.
Because she doesn't end any conversation with me or any of my siblings without telling us she loves us.
Now I'm gonna say this to you also. Never forget to tell her you love her.
Oh, always.
Because that may be the last time she remembers you.
Right.
And you want that in your heart.
Right. It's a constant. We can go to battle.
Yep.
We can go to battle, and I know I'm not gonna win it, but we can do it. But at the end of the day, we're family. We're in this together, and we love each other. Bottom line.
All right.
Bottom line.
I want to thank you ladies for hanging out with me. I want to share with the audience something I didn't do in the beginning. You'll notice that we weren't wearing masks because all three of us have been dual vaccinated, and we're also in a safe space. And so Thank you for hanging out with us. This is a conversation with caregivers. And Cynthia and Rosie, I'm calling y'all caregivers. This is a conversation with Cynthia and Rosie. My name is Mike Kincaid from the Center for Alzheimer's Research and Treatment, which is part of the Massachusetts Alzheimer's Disease Research. And this is Memory Sunday, New England, 2021. Welcome to the second part of our consumer panel. And this part of the panel, I have two amazing guests who I've known for quite a long time. I have Bernice Osborne, who was a caregiver. Bernice, I'm going to let you tell your story. And I have Val Nolan, who was a long distance caregiver. Now, the unique thing is just as with our other two guests, one was a long distance caregiver, one was an at-home caregiver. So this is going to be an interesting combination. But the other thing, the difference between Rosie and Cynthia is Val and Bernice, you're actively involved also in both advocacy and Alzheimer's. I just want to say the word advocacy. So, but today we're talking about the early warning signs. So let's Val, I'm going to start with you because as a long distance caregiver, you were getting the phone calls. So if you wouldn't mind, what was some of the early, I'm going to say phone calls? What was it that made people start to say something's wrong?
Well, thank you for that question, Michael. For me, this is regarding my sister. She was a geriatric social worker. She worked with isolated elders, commuting over 100 miles a day, taking care of all of their needs, actually. And I would talk to her, and I never noticed anything on the phone in regards to our conversations. And these were the days where we did not know actually anything about dementia, Alzheimer's, memory issues, or none of that. So the journey took me to a place where we were preparing to celebrate her retirement. And in that role, it was very trying because I would try to reach her, but I was really reaching my mom. And she says, my mom says to me, now your sister is not the same. I had no idea what that meant.
Right.
Mom didn't know what to say. And she said, you will know when you see her. So I arrive, where am I now? I am in Alabama. And once I arrived there, Mom's looked at me and she looked different, not happy. And my sister was just sitting there. She wasn't dressed appropriately, not with what I've known her to be. Her head was down. And I started crying. And she gave me a hug, but she was my hero. So I didn't get a hello, I'm so happy to see you, or none of that. What I had to learn was that she was already in the throes of dementia. I think that's what they called it.
It had been a while.
So I took her to the doctor, and there were two doctors there, a husband and a wife. And I spoke with them. I had to call back to Boston first. I was working there with Dr. Neal in that group, and the Alzheimer's Association, and you, Michael. And those were my resources because I am like a 5-year-old now. I'm crying like a baby. And so I asked the doctors, I said, when was the last time you saw my sister? And the wife looked at the husband, and then they both looked at Valena because this wasn't the Valena that they knew. and they said to each other, "We're sorry. We missed it." So I thought I was going to explode in the middle of my tears. What do you mean you missed it? What happened? They had no answers at all. So I took a deep breath, took my sister by the hand now. I'm holding my sister by her hand. And we're walking out. She didn't ask what's wrong with me. She didn't ask anything. She was just very quiet. So I opened the car door and let her in, sit down, make sure the door was closed. So my whole demeanor went from being there to celebrate her retirement and enjoy ourselves to totally caregiving. And then I get in the car and I drive back and I tell Mom what's really going on. And the damage really happened when I had to tell her children. That was awful. It was painful for me because who are you to come in from wherever you're living now with all of this that you know what's going on with here? You don't know. So that was horrible. So I had to disregard that and then be there with my mom. So I said to Mom, this is what it means. You're going to have to do everything now. Valina is mobile, but you'll have to watch where she is and you know, even going to the bathroom. Can she go to the bathroom? She goes, I hadn't paid that much attention. I said, yes, so the Valina that we know is gone. Mm-hmm. She's gone. So she wanted to go home. So my mom and I took her back to her house, and my mom moved in with her along with one of the daughters that was still there. That was not a good situation.
Well,
it wasn't good for Mom, and it wasn't good for Valina, and it really wasn't good for the daughter who was screaming and crying and in denial. That's when I learned what is denial. And
Bella, I'm going to jump in because I got to ask you a question. You said a lot there, and I'm going to ask you. It's interesting, and Bernice, I was noticing you're shaking your head, and I got, and you and I have had this conversation too. Val, you had a gazillion resources here in Boston.
Yes.
But it sounds like you got some pushback on trying to use those resources from family. Am I correct?
Yes, the family didn't want to hear anything about what I already knew and how they were, and no cooperation, none.
None. Which, you know, and this is also interesting for those of us who've gone through this family-wise, that's not unique. And Bernice, I'm going to pivot to you. You know, and the cool thing about both you ladies is, as I said earlier, I've known you for so long, and I thank you because I this isn't easy, and I really thank you for sharing your heart. Bernice, if you could share your story with us.
Oh boy, it's a long story, but I'll shorten it. So I'll start. My caregiver journey started with my mom probably 20 years ago now, because we took care of her at home for 15 years. But in the beginning, the signs that we had, the warning signs, were, so we lived in our neighborhood since we were kids. I mean, my mother lived in Dorchester, walked the neighborhood many days. You know, she would walk from here to Common Square to Fields Corner. And she started getting lost and she couldn't remember how to get home. And that was probably one of the early warning signs. And she was just about to retire. And like in the year before, she kept saying that's like when computers became really integrated into the workforce. And she was trying to learn the computer and she was just like, it's too hard. I can't remember anything. She was saying she would read stuff and she couldn't retain it. We just thought she was so stressed because she was just wanted to be retired. And she would say like her coworkers were doing her work for her, you know. I'm pretty sure my dad was covering up some stuff too. But then when she retired and she was home all day, every day, then we really started to notice like she was saying the same thing. You know, she was going from room to room. She would get confused mid-sentence. She'd say one thing, then she'd start saying something else. We'd be like, Mom, what are you talking about? You know, or we'd say, you just told me that like a couple of minutes ago. And then my dad had said to us, like, I think something's going on with your mom. We need to take her to the doctor. And we took her to the doctor. And the first time we took her, they didn't do much then. You know, they talked to us. They were like, oh, give it some time, you know, come back in 6 months. So that's what we did.
I just want to jump in. Remember, we're talking 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. It's changed a lot since then. I've seen it evolve, praise God. But yeah, they said come back 6 months. Then they did the test, you know, where they do the clock and the, you know what I'm talking about?
The mini-mental exam.
Yes, that's what it is. And she did that and it was okay. Like some of the things they did. And they said, well, you know, we think it might be dementia, but we won't know. You have to come back again. So we came back like a year later, but in the midst of that, she was progressing at home. You know, it was getting worse with the wandering. She literally got lost. She went for a walk in the morning. We couldn't find her. You know, my nephews, nieces, brothers, cousins, neighbors. And she was literally like 4 blocks from our house on Morrissey Boulevard, as a matter of fact. And it was pouring rain. And my nephew found her. She was standing in the median and she was kind of like, hey, Elijah, you know. And he was like, Grandma, come on, get in the car. And he was like, what happened? And she was like, I couldn't remember how to get home. So she was just standing there in the rain. You know,
let me jump in for our viewers who aren't familiar with Morrissey Boulevard. It's a mini highway.
Yeah, exactly.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Nowhere near Codman Square.
Nowhere near.
Okay, so it was a dangerous environment that she was, and you guys got lucky on that one.
Oh, we definitely got lucky. And listen, we were in denial even after that. We still let her go for walks. Because we were like, there's nothing wrong with Mom, you know, she's fine. Like we ignored it. And she went walking again and she fell and she broke her nose. And then we were like, okay, we gotta like find out what's going on here. And then the doctor, it was maybe a year and a half later, maybe even close to 2 years before they were like, okay, we think it might be dementia, but we think it might be Alzheimer's.
Right. Now, there's a similarity right here. I don't know if you guys picked up on this. You know, here you're in Boston. Val, you're in Alabama. And you're both interacting with a medical community that seems unsure. Mm-hmm. And Val, I guess I'm going to ask you, how did everybody eventually end up on the same page? Did everybody finally accept? And I'm speaking from personal experience. You guys know this. My grandmother went through this journey, and I still have family members in denial. So I guess I'm curious, and I'm going to ask you both. Val, I'm going to ask you first. Did everybody end up on the same page and accept what was wrong?
No. It actually broke our family apart. We were never the same after that. Not the same feeling, not the same contact. No. It just destroyed destroyed the connection that we had together. Mm-hmm. And I still miss that today.
Bernice, what about you? Did everybody eventually get on the same page?
No.
So again, not unique.
No.
Right? No. The experiences that you think are unique, you realize you're not.
No.
Now, you know, one of the things I mentioned that I love about both of you ladies is you took your, I don't want to call it anger, but you took your that feeling that you had maybe the frustration,
Mm-hmm.
and you turned it into advocacy. And I love that. And you know, Val, I mean, you know, you and I have been talking about legislation. Could you share with us a little bit about your advocacy?
Mm-hmm. Well, I start with the experience was so horrific and heartbreaking and still heartbreaking that I had to do something. And I never want anyone to go through what I went through and how the family broke apart because of what was happening. So I came back to Boston. I'm sorry. I came back to Boston and I went to I called them the heavy hitters at the association. And you helped keep me calm and introduced me to the BU Alzheimer's Disease Center. And I still cried. I talked about it, but I still cried and still cry today. Mm-hmm. But the brightening star was, I guess, 48. Today is Tuesday. Last week, I met with Senator Markey's office, Senator Elizabeth Warren, and Congressman Seth Moulton's office. And we have legislation now, and that talks about the need for comprehensive care for Alzheimer's, to implement a dementia care management model, yay, to provide Alzheimer's Caregiver Support Act, to provide grants to organizations to expand training and support services for families and unpaid caregivers. I lost my corporate job too.
So you got political, and I love that, because I've always said we've got to put a face with this disease.
Yes, and I told my story.
Yep. Bernice, where did your journey take you?
Oh man, what a journey it has been. I have to tell you though, when I started caregiving, I would have never thought that I would be an advocate for caregivers. That was never part of my plan. But in caring for my mother, I remember the first time I spoke at the State House in support of the Silver Alert. And shortly after that, it was passed. But I remember one of the things that I said in my speech was that I was going to be the voice for my mother, because she couldn't speak for herself. I was going to speak for her. And I was going to speak for other caregivers as well, too, who were in the same space as me, because through the journey, I've learned that we all kind of, you know, we don't want to talk about it out loud. We don't want to tell our friends. Like, you know, my mother was sick 5-6 years into it, and some of her friends still never knew. We were just covering it up. We were sad, ashamed, frustrated. And then I just, you know, I got involved. I mean, the Alzheimer's Association, you know, tapped into me, tapped my shoulder, and I, you know, came to the call and said, you know what, if I can help one family not go through what I've gone through, then I feel like I've done my part. And that has turned into many families, you know. But as much as I help them, they've helped me too. Like Val was saying, you know, I still sob and cry, you know, about my mom. My dad has dementia now too, so I'm on this journey again. And I have to say that we are doing it much differently now. The focus is on my dad and his care, and not what everybody else thinks, because that's what we did with my mom, which is what caused separation between us, and anger and resentment. And we were like, you know what, this isn't about us. This is about dad and him being happy and well cared for. And if we just focus on dad, then we won't fight amongst ourselves. You know, we're not doing it for you. I'm doing it for dad. So, but I'm a caregiver coach now. I'm an Alzheimer's caregiver coach. I work with caregivers who are going through the same journey or in it. I sit on the governor's board for Alzheimer's treatment and research for the state. I sat on the Alzheimer's board for 10 years, just rotated off last year. I mean, I've done many things, you know, in terms of that, because Mike knows he can call me like 2 o'clock in the morning and be like, B, I need you there tomorrow. And I'm like, okay, yeah, just tell me where you need me to be. I'm there.
as long as it's not on your wedding anniversary.
Yes,
that's the deal. but so I'm again, your stories are so similar. But here's, and I'm going to ask a question, and you know, full disclosure, I already know the answer. Val, you are a strong advocate of research because we know African Americans, we're more likely to get this than our non-African American counterparts. Val, what got you into research?
Well, their main reason is they don't have a lot of information on us people of color.
Right.
We have no data, people of color. So actually now I've been in 3, the HOPE, the COVID-19 isolation, and even right now, so many people need to be seeking because of the symptoms and syndromes of being isolated. It's critical. And I'm an IT geeks, so I joined one where I can use my smartphone, and there are little cognitive exercises that you take, and they help because we don't know at any given moment, the monster can just, you wake up feeling that way. You don't have a dream and say, oh, really? I don't want to have this dream anymore. No, it's there. And I will do this until I'm done, and then some, is what I will say. And we have the Community Action Council, where we're about education, awareness, advocacy, accountability. It's critical. And let everyone know. I want every family to know. Let go of the shame. You know, let's talk about Alzheimer's and dementia the way you talk about cancer today. Please join the forces so that we can have data that can be used going forward so that we can learn more about us. And irregardless of we have systematic racism, and that's our battle, but now join forces around memory, Alzheimer's, caregiving, and love and care for each other.
And Bernice, and as I said, full disclosure, we've talked about this. And when I remember when I asked you, do you participate in research, and share with our audience what your response was.
I don't want to.
Well, then I'm out you, girl, because you said
I have to say that I've never participated, and quite honestly, it is because I don't know enough about the trials, the research. I just don't know. So because I don't know, and quite frankly, just, you know, from what you've heard about different research and, you know, all the past stuff, you know, that kind of stays in your head. And so you're like, I'm not going to participate even if there's an opportunity. But I did say, I've learned my lesson with this COVID vaccine, because that's how I felt in the beginning. I was like, I'm not getting that vaccine. I'm not doing it. But then once I got the information and I understood, you know, how the vaccine works and what the side effects are possible, where I was like, okay, I'm getting the vaccine. So I got the vaccine. So I've said, like, now, Mike, especially since you asked the question, I was like, it's time for me to get the information so that I can participate in another way. So I feel like that's another way to advocate as well, is to lend myself, you know, my skills, my information, my lifestyle to help other families that are coming up along too. So Val, you may have to get in touch with me to share the information.
I will. It's gladly. And it's, I felt the same way. I am like, whatever. Well, there's the hope study. I was like, well, whatever. I'm not ready to go right there now, but it's just all about education.
Yep.
And keep yourself cognitively stimulated. Yes. So, you're on my list now.
Well, you have my information.
The really cool thing about my next panel, which is a panel of providers, one of them is going to actually be answering the question about research. Bernice, what you just brought up, you know, we're going to have that conversation. So ladies, if my last question to you, if there's one thing you wanted folks to know, what would be that one thing?
If it was one thing that I would want people to know, okay, it's two things. Two things. Okay, the first one would be, don't be afraid to ask for help. Like, just don't be afraid. Even if it's not a full sentence, if you point, whatever you got to do, but people are willing to help you in the way that you need help. So ask for help. The second thing I would say is, you know, when you're in the throes of caregiving, it can be so frustrating and painful. And you often feel like you don't have a way out. Like, what is at the end of this for me? Like, where's my life going to be at the end of this? And I would say to people that there is life after caregiving. Like, I was a lot younger. I was in my early 30s when my mother was diagnosed. And I always said, like, I'm not going to have a life. I couldn't work, you know, I couldn't have a meaningful career. I was always worried about those things. How was I going to make money? Was I going to get married? Was I going to have kids? And I have all of those things now. A great career. I have a great husband, a wonderful daughter. You know, there is life after caregiving, but this is just part of your life journey. You just got to get through it to the other side. I promise you that there are blessings waiting for you on the other side through all of this frustration. So that would be my two things. Sorry, Mike.
No. And you know what? I'm going to throw this in there because you won't say it. You're also an award-winning realtor.
Oh yeah, that too.
so I'm gonna throw it in. I know, because I'm proud of you for that. You, with everything else that you've overcome, you've achieved.
Yeah.
Of real estate. So I've always been proud of you for that.
Thank
Val,
you.
what's your one thing or two things?
Okay. or three things.
Or three things.
That's right, Val.
Critical self-care. This is a long journey. It's still very uncertain. Research is going on, but it isn't where it should be. Become an advocate. Love yourself. Love your family. And I have a wonderful daughter, and she's more attentive now than ever before. And I have a wonderful granddaughter as well. So, and we practice what we preach. And you know, if there's something that's happening, let Michael know, let us know, because we're in it together. Yeah. This is a journey. It's worthwhile. We have to be patient with each other and love and care for each other.
Yes.
And join us, please.
You know what, Val? You touched my heart when you said, let me know, because we've all leaned on each other. You know, last year when we wrapped up Memory Sunday, we wrapped it up with Bill Withers' Lean On Me, because we're all in this together.
Yep.
Ladies, I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me. I can't wait to see you guys again in real life so I can give you a hug.
Yeah.
Right.
And again, thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Take care.
And thank you, Sister Denise.
Val, be in touch.
Yes, I will, for sure.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good day, everybody. Once again, my name is Mike Kincaid from the Center for Alzheimer's Research and Treatment, which is a part of the Massachusetts Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. And this is Memory Sunday New England, the provider panel, the panel of experts who are going to help caregivers navigate the system on getting services, understanding what's happening to their loved ones, and letting them know that there's help out there. Again, I'm going to repeat that last year, if you remember, we literally wrapped up Memory Sunday with the song Lean On Me. And I love that, because that's what this is about, helping folks help each other. So let's start off with an introduction. I'm gonna let you guys introduce yourself. So Tara, you're on my Brady Bunch screen. You're in the upper left-hand corner. So let's start with you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tara Tang, and I'm the Outreach Manager at Butler Hospital's Memory and Aging Program down in Providence, Rhode Island.
Excellent. Carrie.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Carrie Goodman, and I am a strategic development consultant for the Balm and Gilead. We're based in Richmond, Virginia, but we're a national organization that works with the faith community to address health disparities.
All right. Allison?
Hello, my name is Allison Caban Holt, and I'm the Associate Director at the Maya Angelou Center for Health Equity at Wake Forest School of Medicine.
All right. And Ty, bring us home.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tyler Austin Swan, and I'm the Diversity Outreach Coordinator for the Alzheimer's Association for the Massachusetts, New Hampshire chapter.
Thank you. All right. So as folks can see, this is a really dynamic panel. And what we do every year is we always do a brief history of Memory Sunday. So Carrie, you've been around forever, and the Balm is the organization that we've partnered with for, I want to say 4 years now, with Memory Sunday. So if, how did this come about?
So the Balm and Gilead adopted this Memory Sunday initiative from the Sanders Brown Center on Aging at the University of Kentucky a few years back. It was a collaborative partnership through a CDC-funded grant. And we were fortunate enough to adopt their program in order to take it from a more regional initiative to a more national initiative. And so over the last, I'd say 7-8 years now, we have had the opportunity to work with churches all across the country on addressing Alzheimer's and dementia and caregiving. And now more recently, we've been in a space where we are trying to hone in on research and getting African Americans more involved in research.
And we're going to talk about that. I want to talk with Tara about folks, because that came up in our caregiver conversation. So Tara, let me pivot to you real quick. Well, wait, before I do that, let me go to Allison, because Allison, one of the things that we've learned, and Carrie, I'm quite sure when the Balm was first starting this up, what we've been doing for the last, this is the 4th year now, is having to educate people. What is Alzheimer's? So Allison, I'm gonna come to you, because the number one question I always get is, what's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia?
I think that's a great question. And basically, dementia means memory loss. So there are a lot of different reasons why a person may experience memory loss. Alzheimer's disease just happens to be one of those many reasons. And Alzheimer's disease is the most prevalent form of memory loss in people over the age of 60. And it accounts for about 60 to 80% of all dementias. In addition, there are other forms of dementia, such as vascular dementia, which has to do with if there are blockages or impaired blood flow to the brain that can cause memory loss. Parkinson's disease, it also has a form of memory loss that goes with it, and frontotemporal dementia, just to name a few, where the frontal and temporal areas of the brain are affected and may cause changes in personality and language. So Alzheimer's disease is just one form of memory loss.
So dementia is kind of like an umbrella with different types of spokes, so to speak. And so we keep talking about memory loss, but is memory loss, and remember, this is seasons of change, recognizing the early warning signs. So is memory loss the first thing that someone might notice?
So I think that's the interesting thing about Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia is, even though they are an umbrella term for there are different forms of memory loss, sometimes the first thing that a loved one or caregiver might notice is not actually memory loss. They may notice changes in personality or behavior, maybe even judgment. Now, the underlying reason for that may be memory loss. So for example, I like to consider, if you are having trouble with your memory and you did not realize it, and your possessions were in different places than you remember, or someone is telling you you've missed an appointment, that might cause frustration, or it might cause you to have some suspiciousness or think someone is trying to play games with you. But that might actually be some of the early warning signs that something is going wrong with your memory.
Ty, I just got an email this morning about a slew of programs that the Alzheimer's Association is hosting. And I know the ones that I saw are New England based, but the Alzheimer's Association is a national organization. What are some of the programs that, folks can go to the website and look for?
Shelly, thank you for mentioning that. As you mentioned, the Alzheimer's Association is a national association. We have chapters in each state. It's the nation's leading voluntary health organization, and it's devoted to Alzheimer's care, support, and research, and overall dementia. There's a network of 75 chapters, and any city or town is covered by a chapter. The resources of the Alzheimer's Association are more important than ever. They're free, and we also have a 24/7 helpline that I can talk about a little further. However, in order to ensure the safety of our constituents and volunteers and staff, and all resources and support are available by telephone, online, and live video conferencing. So no matter where you are, you're able to get in touch with someone that is a part of the Alzheimer's Association. Our constituents receive individualized information and support for their unique situation. That includes people living with Alzheimer's and their families, the general public, and professionals who work in the field of dementia. No problem is too big or too small. Any questions, concerns that you have, we are here for your support. Support and information is available 24/7 in English and in Spanish from experts in the field of dementia. I mentioned the 24/7 helpline. It's a gateway for all of our programs and services, Mike. It also provides an immediate support consultation for families at any hour of the day. And I promise you, if you want to call my bluff, if you wake up at 2, 3 in the morning, call us. I promise you someone will answer. You can contact the helpline day and night. You can find out about our programs and register. And since our helpline is staffed by trained specialists and master level clinicians, you can also talk to someone and learn about some of the following things. I just want to list a few. You're able to learn about symptoms in Alzheimer's for dementia, as mentioned by one of my colleagues here. You're able to get decision-making support as well, caregiving tips, education on issues that families face every day. You're also able to receive referrals to local resources that are in your area, and find emotional support. And as Mike mentioned, all of our education programs you'll be able to find on our website. And again, we've tailored them to be convenient for you. And I know 2020 was a difficult year for everyone, and we understand that as well. So we're trying to meet everyone's needs where they are.
All right, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of those programs. I got to tell you, when you said if they want to call your bluff, I thought you were going to give out your cell phone number. Tara, you know, it was interesting when I was talking with the ladies, and Rosie, Cynthia, Val, and Bernice were just so amazing. It was so interesting because I asked Bernice about research, and she said, you know, we talked about the hesitancy, you know, that which of course we are all aware of, but then she said something that I thought was so compelling, and I went, I got to ask Tara this question. She said, I really am not sure how to get involved. And you know, all of us work in this field. For us, it's a phone call, but for the caregiver, it's complicated. So what would you suggest would be the first step if somebody wanted to help, because getting involved in research is helping? So what would be a first step or steps?
Steps, yes. So yes, I agree with you, Mike. This is helping in a big way if you are participating in research. And I would say for all the research sites here in New England, every site will have a phone number that you can call. So if you are not computer savvy, if you just want to talk to a real person, I promise you, all of us are going to want to talk to you. So we have our phone number, we have our website. And now that 2021 is opening up a little bit, I know in different areas it might be rules change, but we're going out into the community and having outdoor events. So what better place to come and get to know us a little bit more and find out, you know, how to get involved by talking to people who are at each of our sites. So that would be my first recommendation. If you want to do your research ahead of time, go online, give a phone call, find out a little bit about us, what is available and enrolling at each of our sites, and talk to us about your concerns. We also know that this is a huge step, and we're talking about caring for you potentially or your loved ones, and we want to make sure that you feel comfortable with that. So take the opportunity to ask us any and all questions. There is no such thing as a stupid question. We want you to feel comfortable. We want you to feel calm. And so whatever we need to do to meet you where you are at that point in your journey, we'll meet you there. Absolutely. So that is the best way. Phone call, online, and join for those outdoor events that we're hoping to see a little bit more of in 2021.
All right, Carrie, this question just popped in my head. Let's go on the Wayback Machine. All right, University of Kentucky has piloted Memory Sunday. For targeting the Black church, which for some churches that in my lifetime growing up as a Baptist church, in a Baptist church, that had to be a high lift, a high hurdle to overcome. Can you speak a little bit about how did they get folks to buy in on something that, let's be realistic, is kind of invisible or used to be invisible in our community?
It's funny that you say that. One thing that we, in terms of talking about Alzheimer's and dementia through our National Brain Health Center for African Americans, is the notion that all of us know somebody who is suffering or know a family that is impacted by Alzheimer's or dementia in some form. My family, all of us on this panel today have had some family member who has been impacted. And so I think letting it hit home like that probably is the most important thing for us, is just, making it real, making it, as real as possible. And I think that's probably for us the ultimate buy-in. One thing that we're fortunate enough in working with the faith community is we have been doing it for years. The Balm Gilead has been in existence for 32 years. And so in us addressing, HIV, in us addressing diabetes, bringing Alzheimer's to the forefront was for us an easy thing, because we want people to understand that it's not a death sentence. I think that's one of the most important things. We all understand the liveliness in addressing Alzheimer's. And what I mean by that, I mean that if we are able to provide resources, if we're able to, touch bases with Ty on all of the resources that they have available at the Alzheimer's Association, if we are able to tap into some of the research that Tara is talking about, we can hone in on that liveliness that we so many people see this as a death sentence, like, they want to seclude their family members or their loved ones. And I'm of the notion, we have to do things in moderation and do things that work for each family. But if our church doors are open for, any and every person to do whatever, we have to be willing to address things like Alzheimer's. In October, we talk about breast cancer, and it's very big. We have Pink Sunday. So why not have a Purple Sunday? Because we want to make sure that all health disparities get to each and every family.
Mike, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to tie in with research and specifically addressing dementia in the Black community. I think I'd like to kind of paint a picture on how it's affecting us. There was a 2021 Facts and Figures report that was recently published at the top of this year's by the Alzheimer's Association. The findings from two of the national surveys appearing in the Alzheimer's Association 2021 Disease Facts and Figures report reveal that discrimination is a barrier to Alzheimer's and dementia care. More than 1/3 of Black Americans and nearly 1/5 of Hispanic Americans and Asian Americans believe discrimination would be a barrier to receiving Alzheimer's care. In addition, half or more of non-white caregivers say they have experienced discrimination when navigating healthcare settings for their recipient. The 2021 Facts and Figures report provides an in-depth look at the latest national statistics on Alzheimer's prevalence, incidence, mortality, cost of care, and impact on caregivers. For the first time, the accompanying special report, Race, Ethnicity, and Alzheimer's in America, examines perspectives and experiences of Asian, Black, Hispanic, Native, and white Americans in regards to Alzheimer's and dementia care. If you wouldn't mind, I'd just like to continue just a little further, just to kind of paint a further picture. Findings in the report reveal that non-white, racial, ethnic populations expect and experience more barriers when accessing dementia care and have less trust in medical research and are less confident that they have access to health professionals who understand their ethnic and racial background and experiences. And among these findings, 2/3 of Black Americans believe it is harder for them to get excellent care for Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. Likewise, 2 in 5 Native Americans and Hispanic Americans believe their own race or ethnicity makes it harder to get care. And so do 1/3 of Asian Americans. Nearly 2/3 of Black Americans believe that medical research is biased against people of color, a view shared by a substantial number of Asian Americans, Native Americans, and Hispanic Americans as well. Only half of Black Americans trust a future for Alzheimer's will be shared equally, regardless of race, color, or ethnicity. And last, I want to leave you with fewer than half of the Black and Native Americans feel confident that they have access to providers who understand their ethnic or racial background experiences, and only 3 in 5 Asian Americans and Hispanics feel confident likewise. So that just shows us where we are currently and how much further we need to go. Yeah.
So Ty, thank you for bringing that up, because Tara, I gotta immediately pivot to you, and you know, as someone like yourself that is out in the community and has sat in many rooms addressing everything that Ty just said, which sadly I gotta admit I'm not surprised by. So how does the research community address the issue of the perception that we as Black and brown folks aren't going to be treated the same?
Well, that's a very big question.
That is a very big question.
It's a very big question. I will say that we have, as a research community, have to be very humble when we are out in the community to find out what the needs of our Black, African American, and Latino communities are. And we're hoping that there is going to be a two-way conversation regarding participation in research and how we can learn actually more from our communities. And we have a long way to go with that, but I think the door is wide open, and we are hoping to, as people inquire about what is available, they can learn about the different steps and see if that works for them. And that's the most important part. If it does not work for them, then you shouldn't be participating in that particular research program. But we're hoping that you will be able to do so. And the engagement is critical. And so when we're out in the community, we are talking to people at all different levels. Mm-hmm. It's grassroots. It's those community leaders. It's the faith ministries of the churches. We need to be speaking with them and providing the education so that they can speak to their community. They're not going to listen to me because they don't know me. But I can provide the education to those that do know the community well and be a resource for them. So I'm sure all of the sites in New England would echo this, is that we're all happy to do that, provide that level of education and resource so that, those community leaders, the patients, the primary care physicians in the clinics, in an office, and the faith leaders can be the ones who can speak to the community where they feel more comfortable, they have a level of trust. And through that conversation, we hope that, more people will engage or at least inquire. and see if it is the right fit for them.
You know,
hey, Mike, can I join this conversation as
Allison,
well?
I was just coming to you. I could see you like, I got jump in.
Yeah, I think it's important also, everything Tara says is definitely right on, especially with regard to, as research institutions, we have to develop trust, but we need to be trustworthy. Sometimes we put our information out there in the community and expect the community to come to us.
If you build it, they will come.
Right. We are the experts, so of course they'll trust us. And that's completely, you know, we have to kind of flip the script on that. As Sarah's saying, definitely go out into the communities, but also what are we leaving behind in the communities? We get a research project going for 5 years. We go out to the community, recruit people, and then after those 5 years are over, we don't go out to the community again. What have we left behind in the community? We really have to start, as we are, you know, creating our budgets, we have to start thinking about what can we leave that community with that will be a lasting expression of our appreciation, but also connection, that we can come there again and really connect and build relationships. And the other thing I'd also like to say about this as well is that we also need to make sure that we as researchers are hiring people who look like the community.
Yes.
We want to go into communities, but then we have no one on our staff that looks like the communities we want to engage with. So it is also important that, you know, even as we go out and we're training community members, is it a possibility that maybe some of those community members could be trained to become part of our team? So I just want to put those things out there as well.
No, real quick, I just want to say, Allison, that is so spot on. Because when you think about, and I know we get it, I mean, I get emails daily. You know, we want to work with the faith community. We want to do X, Y, and Z. And, you know, my thing is, one, what are you offering? But two, what are you leaving behind? And we get that as well at the Balm and Gilead. You know, we go to the faith community because we understand the power of the pulpit. We understand the power of messaging. And we have to be very sensitive to the culture of the faith communities that we are embarking upon. And I say that because, one, you have to, as a provider, raise your level of consciousness in terms of the culture of the communities. No faith community is the same.
Right.
No denomination is the same. And in order to be effective, I think that's the key word.
I'm gonna double down on what you said. No two churches.
No.
Forget the denomination. No two churches are the same.
No. And you have to be very sensitive to the needs of each place of worship. That's super important. But also to the communities that they serve. That's two totally different things. And I say that because when we think of community, we think community is just the physical geographic location, but community is each and every person that comes to that place of worship on a weekly basis. Now, let me say this: we are in a new space. And one thing that I've been honing in on for the last couple of weeks is the notion that nothing will ever be normal again. And understanding that will help us in who we're reaching out to, how we're reaching out to, but most importantly, what we're reaching out. And that's super important because if we are thinking of just the physical location of the church or the place of worship, then we're doing ourselves a disservice because now we're in a space where there is a major number of individuals that aren't even coming to the physical location because we're all in social distancing or sheltering in place, if you will. We're still a year later. And so I think that's so important is understanding. So what I do, and you know, I'll leave this, what I typically do when I reach out to a denomination or even a place of worship, I will do my research, do some community mapping, of the physical location. I do needs assessment internally. I do a needs assessment. I'm trying to understand who are the people that we're trying to reach. And I think that's super, super important because like I said, we want to be effective in what we're doing, not just doing it just to be doing it. We get plenty of money for, through grant funding. And we know how to make it work and make it sound good and make it look good. But what the most important thing about that is being effective in what we're doing.
So I wanna pivot back to some more stuff about caregivers. And Allison, I'm gonna come to you because Carrie earlier said something that I found really interesting when he used the word suffering. And I want you to share. In full disclosure, and I've said this publicly, my grandmother had Alzheimer's. And when someone once said to me, "Oh, I feel so bad for how she's suffering," and I had to explain, physically my grandmother was in good shape. She still walked. She was physically in a good shape. She just was going on a journey backwards in time. And I share this with, when she reached that point in her journey where I no longer existed, that was one of the most painful moments in my life. And as I tell people, for those of us who got left behind, we're suffering when grandma no longer knows me and I've known her my whole life. So can we talk a little bit about, I don't want to downplay what's happening to the person who is living with Alzheimer's because they are living with this disease. But the caregivers are the ones who are watching it and in some cases feeling helpless. So how do we address that?
So thank you for that question. It is complicated. I find that our caregivers are truly selfless and at the same time are incredibly filled with guilt, even though they are trying their very best in a job that is difficult. There are over 11 million unpaid caregivers of dementia patients in the United States. So there are a lot of, it's a big community. And understanding that, I think some things that the caregiver can do, number one, is to make sure that they understand more about the process of the Alzheimer's disease and understanding what the different kinds of stages and processes that the person is going to be going through so that they're equipped and expect what is going to be coming next in that person's, as you said, journey. I think also caregivers also need to be aware of their own need to take care of themselves and their own health.
Right.
Caregiving in and of itself is a health risk for is a health risk for the individual. And when you consider that there is a disproportionate number of unpaid caregivers in the African American community, that means a lot. So we have to make sure that we ourselves are staying healthy. And we don't like to. We don't like to reach out to people. We don't like for anybody who's not a family member to take care of our loved ones. We have an incredible amount of guilt, but we do have to ask others to step up to the plate and to help with the caregiving duties. And if you can't, possibly consider some sort of formal respite when possible. And the other part of it is to make sure that you make your needs known. I do find sometimes caregivers think that others should know that they need help and they don't articulate it. And then they suffer, the caregiver suffers. So making sure that people do know, if people say, oh, call me if you need something, and then you don't, and then you're, like, they should know I need help. You do have to say it. And, so those are a few things that I suggest for the caregiver to take some control of the things that they do have control over.
Ty, since we're also talking about caregivers, one of the things, and I mentioned this, that came up in the conversation with the caregivers, was that I believe 3 out of the 4, their loved ones wandered. You know, which is a nice way of, I never did like the word wandering because it sounds so warm and fuzzy. They got lost. They got lost going from point A to point B or back. And I know the association has and statistically wise, 7 out of every 10 people living with Alzheimer's who are able to walk will get lost. I personally think it's 100%. Those other 30% find their way home and don't tell nobody they got lost. But I want to talk a little bit about the program that the Alzheimer's Association sponsors, Medical Alert Safe Return, the Wandering Program.
Yeah, certainly. And before I just jump into that, I'd like to echo what Allison mentioned. And just for our caregivers, know that you're not here. You're not in this alone. And there are support groups for you as well. And one day at a time, one step at a time, in making sure that you're equipped with the knowledge and resources of what may come can sometimes ease some of that pressure. But as Mike mentioned, the Alzheimer's Association has a 24/7 wandering support and safe return program. Our nationwide emergency response service facilitates the safe return of individuals living with Alzheimer's disease or other dementia who wander or have a medical emergency. The Alzheimer's Association, in collaboration with Medical Alert, a foundation that provides membership plans with 24/7 wandering support. And how it works is basically a Medical Alert membership plan with wandering support helps first responders and families reconnect with individuals living with dementia and who experience a medical emergency if they have wandered. 24/7 response, emergency response, when an incident call comes in. Medical Alert's emergency response team collects all relevant information on the missing or found person. For missing incidents, a missing persons report is generated and distributed to local police, EMS, and other authorities as appropriate. Medical Alert continues to follow up on the case until it is resolved. And I can certainly provide more information on that as well as some documentation. And you're also able to find this on our website too.
All right. Tara, you know, what I heard from Allison, well, the common theme is that caregivers may feel so overwhelmed that they don't know what to do. And so I'm pivoting back to research because one of the things that they can do, that they can feel that they've got control of, is finding a cure for this disease. So, you know, we keep talking about research, and again, all of us who've done work in the community know, you know, people think research is all about medication. Right. So let's talk about, there's 2 different types of research. There's clinical and there's observation. Can you give us a snapshot of both?
Sure, there's actually a little bit more as well. So I like to think that we are sort of in the golden age of research right now for Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. There are so many different options available to people right now. So yes, there are investigational medication studies for people with and without a diagnosis of memory concerns. There's a bunch of observational studies right now that include PET and tau scans. There are fluid biomarkers.
Wait, Tara, I gotta jump.
Okay.
Tell me what a PET and a tau scan is.
So a PET and tau refers to the plaques that we believe are the hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease. And so they kind of get very sticky in the brain and then can break down the synapses that are connecting in the brain, leading to dementia and Alzheimer's disease. So if we have a PET and tau scan, now we can take a look at the brain, and it shows up in these bright different colors to see if someone might be at an increased risk even before they have memory symptoms. So there's a lot of research going on with that. And what's really nice is that we can see that well ahead of time. Some of these plaques are building up 10, 15, 20 years before you actually see memory loss symptoms in the clinic. So that's a newer way to see the disease and its progression. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. There's also the fluid biomarker. So taking a look at blood and your cerebral spinal fluid to see if there is maybe some tau scans. I don't want to get too clinical because I am not a clinician, but to see, you know, okay. So to see what's in there, to see if there might be additional risk factors, you can have, there's retinal scans. You can take a look at your eye and see if that is the window to your brain. There are smartphone studies. You can take a look and see if you have the ApoE4 gene, which is a risk gene for Alzheimer's. It doesn't guarantee it, but you can take a look and see if you might be at risk, if you know that there might be some family history. And then there's those longer studies that are taking a more in-depth look at family history and to see if there might be additional risk factors there. We have a lifestyle intervention study right now called US Pointer. It's actually based out of my colleague here, Allison, down in Wake Forest, and we are one of 5 sites. New England has their own site, which is wonderful. And it's looking at diet and exercise changes to see if that will prevent Alzheimer's and protect memory as one gets older. And that there's no investigational medication. You just have to be willing to do a little bit of exercise and take a look at your diet a little bit more closely. So we like to think that there is something for everyone. And that's why we encourage people to take a look at the different sites, see what there is being offered, see if it's the right fit for you, your family, and your lifestyle, right? Because we're not going to fit you all the time. Right. So to find out what there is, find out where you feel comfortable. One site might, you know, feel a little bit more comfortable, like with a church, and maybe you find you feel more at home in one congregation than another. So you have to take a look around. And that's what we're here for. So definitely take a look at that. It is a wonderful way to take charge of your own health. You know, with the caregiving, especially this is a long disease. This is not a short disease, it's long. The more time you have to plan, as an individual, if you happen to have memory loss or concerned about that, you have an opportunity to choose your care, how you want it done. And I think that's one of the scarier parts of this disease is that you have a loss of control. You feel like you're losing control, you're losing yourself. By starting sooner in the process, then you have an opportunity to take charge now and do it the way you want to do it and let your loved ones know how you want to do it. So that you have that voice right then and there. And it's an opportunity to gain access to regular care more than you would perhaps see like a PCP in your annual visit. And get a chance to see something before maybe the general public will have access to it, which is also kind of a citizen scientist leading the way. So you could be a leader in your own community, which is really kind of neat. If I may, Mike, indulge me for a moment. Just to circle back to talking about what we leave behind in the community and whatnot. I think it's important. I know several research sites that I'm aware of have formed community advisory boards, which is made up of the leaders of people in their community so that they can advise the researchers on what to do, what cultural nuances need to be looked at, what the culture and everything that word involves. Is in that particular community. And I also think it's important that researchers participate in community activities that mean the most to them, not outside of research, has nothing to do with research. If a community, a church wants to do a food drive, get in there. Go show up, bring something and start delivering the food. Again, with COVID, it's a little bit different, but to participate actively in things that matter to the community long-term, not just one and done, but long-term, because this is a partnership. This is an ongoing thing long after any of these studies, you know, or when these studies are done, long after, you can continue to have that relationship and be part of an integral part of the community so that everyone knows what's going on and that we care for our people. And I think that's incredibly important for the success of anything in general, but specifically in research.
Yeah. You just set up my next question for Carrie, which is, Carrie, post-Memory Sunday, June 14th, what should folks be looking at to do, partner with the churches that were so, we are grateful that they participated in Memory Sunday, but Memory Sunday is the start of the conversation. How does that conversation continue?
Absolutely. I think after Memory Sunday, June 14th, one thing that I'll say a faith leader can do is increase their compassion. I think that is one of the most important things that is needed even throughout the whole process is compassionate care. But after Memory Sunday, as a parishioner, as a church goer, one thing that can be done is checking on your fellow parishioners. If it's just a simple call. Allison mentioned the infamous phrase, if you need anything, call me. One thing that I have recommended is just sharing a gift card with someone. Sharing, hey, let's go to dinner. Something as simple as that. And not only just keeping it open-ended, but putting a time on it. Hey, what are you doing Wednesday night? What are you doing on Saturday? Giving the caregiver the opportunity to look at their schedule and say, hey, I don't have anything. You don't have anything. Let's do X, Y, and Z. Because we all know the importance of just having that moment to just take a moment and breathe. I think that's super important. That is so important. We, the last I'd say 14 months, we all have been in a space where we have been going and doing, even if we've been at home, I feel busier than we've been in a long time. And just having a moment to just shut it all down, think about yourself. Some other things that can be done. One thing that Tara said that was so key in one of the research studies that they have is looking at your diet, looking at how you exercise. We all can do that retrospectively, and we all can do something about it. And I'll say, just take a moment every morning you wake up, meditate, drink a full glass of water, go for a 30-minute walk. Things like that can make lasting changes. And so after Memory Sunday, there are so many things that we can do collectively, but we also have to be mindful of those things that we need to do individually. And so just talking to somebody, reading a book, things like that can help us shift how we think about this disease, but also it gives us an opportunity to do something that can be more impactful going forward. So I hope that helped a little bit, Mike.
No. And you know what? Because our time is just about up. And that is a good way for me to ask the last question, which I'm going to ask all of you to answer, and I'm going to go backwards this time. So I'm going to start with you, Ty. If there's one thing you would share with caregivers, what would you say that one thing would be?
One thing only.
Everybody else has got more time to think about it now.
I'd probably have to echo what Carrie mentioned and repeat what I said before regarding you're not in this alone, and knowing that there are literally more people than you can count that are going through this at this point in time. And if you don't know someone personally that you can call or whatnot, know that you can always call the Alzheimer's Association, and somebody is going to pick up that phone and answer whatever questions, concerns you have. And even if you just want to vent, if you just need to blow off some steam, you can do that. Just know that you're not here alone.
And thank you for saying that last part, because what I was going to chime in with is someone will answer the phone and listen.
Yep.
Because sometimes you just need to talk.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to, and they'll listen for as long as you need them to.
And the other thing I wanted to say is they'll listen because sometimes you also need just to cry.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Allison, if there's one thing that you want to share with caregivers, what would that one thing be?
is something that I've been thinking about, is that there are caregiver trainings and workshops that would actually help train and work with the caregiver to learn better ways or more effective ways of dealing with some of the problem behaviors that people with dementia may display. There are better ways to redirect, and perhaps also some better ways to ambulate with the person. So sometimes people who have dementia may have trouble walking and things like that. So learning better ways to get them moving without hurting yourself and ending up injured yourself. So look for some caregiver training workshops to help learn the best skills for managing behaviors with the person, with your loved one with dementia.
And I want to let our audience know that at the end of the video, there is going to be information about all of these type of institutions, the Balm and Gilead, the Alzheimer's Association, Wake, Butler, and the reason why, and of course, Madrick/CART. The reason why I want to mention that is because there's some really erroneous information on the internet. And I don't want to use the word dangerous, but it is dangerous. And so again, we'll have information for people, contact information, phone numbers. Ty, you've been mentioning the 24/7 helpline. I haven't put you on the spot to say the number because if I'm watching this, I don't have a piece of paper to write it down anyways. So we're going to have that information at the end.
Got it for you if you need it.
I know you do. Carrie, one thing you want folks to caregivers to take home.
One thing I want caregivers to take home is there are 24 hours in a day. Make the most of it, make the best of it, but most of all, make you in it. That's it.
Ooh, Tara, I hate to be you on this one.
No, I can't. I'm not even gonna try. That's wonderful. I would kind of like to go back to what Ty had mentioned earlier, is that there are many people available to help you. If we are lucky enough to earn your trust and help you, you now have a new family in the research world. And I think that's a wonderful thing, because not only do the participants in the study get to know each other and not feel so alone, regardless of where they are in their memory journey, but the caregivers who come with them to the studies and to the site, they now have a new support system as well. It may be informal. I think it's wonderful when we get a chance to see those longer studies and everyone has become family, not only with the caring nursing staff, but with each other. And they're doing catch-ups every single month about family, trips, grandkids, and it's wonderful. And some of them are quite sassy. So you also get an earful, and it's really a lot of fun. So that becomes a new family and a new support network, and we could all use so much more support. So if we're lucky enough to have you, then we would love to be part of that structure. So we look forward to that conversation with you soon.
Excellent, excellent. You know, I'd be amiss if I didn't mention also that there are two research studies out there that just come to off the top of my head, which is the AHEAD study and the Trailblazer study, which are caregivers, they're looking for folks to participate in. So my closing thought is, having had the honor of co-facilitating a support group for 14 years, one of the things I learned from the caregivers that blessed me with their knowledge was that you hit it on the head. You're not alone, but you might find out that you're not as unique, as your situation is not as unique as you think it is. So find a way to be with people who've been there, done that, got t-shirts to prove it, so that you can laugh, cry, and just hold each other. I could talk with you guys all day long about this, but our time is up. I want to thank you all again for participating in this caregiver panel. Thank you definitely for participating in Memory Sunday New England 2021. And we're just going to keep doing this until we don't have to do it again.
Indeed.
Everybody.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Wow, that was an amazing panel. Both of them were. I want to thank our caregivers, Cynthia, Rosie, Val, and Bernice, for sharing their stories and letting us know that you're not alone in this.
that you can see that there are some commonalities. I want to thank our amazing panel of providers, Tara, Carrie, Ty, Allison, for letting us know that there's help out there. There's services out there for families, for people who are living with this disease, and also for those who want to find a way to help fight Alzheimer's by participating in research. So again, like you, I'm at home now enjoying Memory Sunday, and I would like to introduce my coworker, my colleague, the person who 5 years ago made it a mission to bring Memory Sunday New England to all of us. The co-director of outreach for the Center for Alzheimer's Research and Treatment, and my friend, Nancy Koppelman.
Thank you, Mike, and a very deep thank you to the many Memory Sunday New England collaborators who represent more than 20 faith communities and organizations across the region and beyond. And a very special thank you to the Brigham and Women's and Berea Seventh-day Adventist production teams for making Signs of Change a virtual event. 5 years ago, I learned about Memory Sunday and jumped on the Balm and Gilead website, only to find that there were no participating faith communities in the Northeast. I called the Balm and our connection was instantaneous. I set the intention of having one church in 2018. This blossomed into 18 in 2019 and 6 in 2020, given the pandemic, and a quick pivot to go virtual. I am very grateful to our many collaborators who begin meeting in September to plan for the next year's Memory Sunday. Their creativity, their willingness to think outside of the box, and their perseverance make Memory Sunday every year exceptionally unique and authentic. It truly takes a village, and we have a splendid one. Please feel free to be in touch if you would like to join us as part of Memory Sunday New England. We would love to hear from you. Thank you.
How informative. Thank you so much for your presence here today. I thank Nancy Koppelman, the one who leads out in the coalition, Memories of Memory Sunday New England, Carrie Goodman, and the Balm of Gilead, Emily Shea, Age Strong Commissioner, the City of Boston, the Mayor's Office, and the Mayor, Madam Kim Janey, the representatives from the various churches in the area, the awesome media team, Mike Kincaid, the panelists, and all those who have shared invaluable information and resources that are free and readily available. Sharing is caring. So please care enough to share with others the information and resources you were exposed to on this program. You can find most or more information on YouTube and the websites that will be displayed at the end of the video. Thanks once again, and stay healthy, and reach out to us if you need a friend. Bless you. We hope to see you again next year for another Memory Sunday in New England.
I invite for you to join me in prayer as we thank God for all that we have experienced today. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you that you have poured into us. I pray that as we have been filled, that Lord, we will be empowered to take the good news of what we have learned today, so that we might be empowered to bring hope to some family's life, that we might be encouraged to let somebody know that there is a brighter day coming. And Father, we look forward to that day when sickness shall be no more, and we shall see you face to face. So Lord, may you bless us. May you keep us. May you cause your face to shine upon us. In Jesus' name, amen and amen.